And when you want to open it up, there's that little bit of slight hesitation when he thinks, what do you want to do? What are you trying to do to me? And you pull the throttle right back and away you go. Right, so here we are, the Kawasaki W650, and it's quite an odd duck, isn't it, really? It's one of those bikes which was always around, but nobody really knew much about. Because when you think about the time when this bike came around, so this bike in particular, or this model, because there were earlier W650s, weren't there? I think, you know, going way back, and these don't really resemble anything like those, to be honest with you. I know they sort of said, well, it's a follow-on from that, but it wasn't really, because you've got to look at the time when this came out. And so this came out in 1999, and in reality was sort of seen as competition to Triumph, because the whole bike is just a clone of a Bonneville, really. Apart from the engine, where the engine is slightly early, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when you actually look at the bike, the amount of people that would come up to this bike and say, what is that? Is that a Bonneville? You know, if you take the badges off, you wouldn't know what it was. You'd automatically think it was a Triumph, because the dimensions that are so close, really, when you look at it. But it had some odd features which we'll look around when you sort of think it could have been such a great bike, and it is a great bike, but it could have been so much more, couldn't it? Because it was what I always find interesting when you look at this bike is that you've got this sort of situation where Triumph at the time were out Japanesing the Japanese. They sort of completely turned the tables. And the Japanese had gone down the route at that period of, you know, these fast sports bikes, and, you know, particularly Kawasaki, you know, were doing extraordinary things with their sports bikes. And Triumph were, you know, realising that sort of during the period of John Bloor, were realising that to make their bike successful, they had to make them as good as they could be, you know, as reliable and such great quality, which they did. And Kawasaki also thought, well, we want a piece of that pie. You know, could they see the writing on the wall that Triumph were going to suddenly come back and make a real great go of their business, which they did. You know, and you look at Triumph now, it's extraordinary, isn't it? But it was pretty built on the Bonneville and subsequent sort of sports bikes. But even in the sports bikes, a lot of their sports bikes, like the Trophy and stuff, were still phenomenal bikes. They didn't have quite the reputation, in my mind, of the Japanese bikes at the time. You know, we still saw the Japanese as building high revving, you know, high output, phenomenal sports bikes. You know, they were building things like the GPZ 750, the turbo, and all that sort of stuff. And Triumph were not quite in there yet, even though their bikes were fantastic and they were building phenomenal triples. You know, and you have to look now where Triumph are. But then Kawasaki came along with this thing, and it was sort of it was well designed, but then half-assed finished, if you know what I mean. Because when you have to look at some of the things on here to sort of see what I'm talking about, you know. But when I say about, you know, Triumph out Japanesing the Japanese, you know, they were building this sort of, as they went on from there. You had the early the reborn T100s, if you like, which were phenomenal bikes. Yes, they were similar to this. They had carburetors and stuff, but Triumph had the heritage in that respect on building bikes like that. And you wanted a Triumph. You know, we were British. We wanted a Triumph, and we got it. We got the Bonneville, and the Bonneville today is still one of the great selling bikes, and highly regarded, probably as the premier classic, modern classic out there, isn't it? It's still regarded as probably the best, the daddy of them all. So this had a short history really, 1999, 2007, I think the last bike rolled off the production line. And then they went into the W800, which again didn't really quite, it was too little too late in that respect. People respected those bikes, but it was all over by then, by the shouting, wasn't it? You know, Triumph had cornered that market. You know, they'd taken their place in that sort of genre. And Kawasaki, with a sort of slightly half-assed go at it, even though the bikes are great and very well sought after now, particularly the 650 is very, very highly sought after, it was too late. So let's have a look at those couple of bits on this bike, which sort of partly killed it in terms of quality-wise, and what they did to this bike, and some of the things which are really good about it. So you got stuff that absolutely screams Triumph, haven't you? Absolutely screams Triumph. Even when it's down to that panel with the gold writing there, that's straight off like my Tiger and all those sort of bikes. They all had this panel exactly the same as that. You know, the knee pads, the badges. But this is where it gets quite odd, okay? The badges are just stuck on plastic. You would find that on the Triumph. You know, that's what separates a premium from a sort of wannabe a little bit, isn't it? You know, Triumph put metal badges on their bikes, but that's just stuck on. Same as the knee pads. And it sort of comes, this bike seems to come from an era when we were all using avocado bathroom suites and ruche leather. You know, a lot of Draylon going on, wasn't there, really? So you get oddities like that, but a nicely painted tank, nevertheless, a lovely painted tank. You get things like alloy rims. We were fitting alloy rims to Triumph were doing that to things like their, what was it, the 900, Thunderbird 900 had alloy rims, stuff like that. You know, which is a really nice feature. Metal mudguards, chrome. We got chrome. You know. Then you get things which are really bad. The finish is notorious for losing its finish on its casings. It was just badly done, whether it's lacquered, whatever it was. You know, bizarre. You know, to keep those clean, you really got to be polishing and doing all sorts of stuff, like not taking it out at all. You got the push rod, bevel drive push rod. Bevel drive, isn't it? For the valves. It has this sort of interesting sort of whir. It's a bit like almost like it's a supercharger turbo. It's got the same really cool sound it's got on it. You look at the seat, you know, classic white piping around the seat. It's classic British, isn't it? At the end of the day. But the clocks, you remember saying about the clock? Beautiful clocks, really nice. I used to lust it. There was something always about when you saw these clocks. I remember when we had our sort of Japanese bikes, you know, way back when. And if you had a rev counter, you'd made it. You know, you were it if you had a rev counter on your bike. And it just that lovely, but I always remember it was that thing where our bikes would never start. Never seemed to start. And it was just to see the rev counter sort of going up and down. Absolutely stunning. Very short bar on here as well, which is quite interesting. These are not the original mirrors. I can't remember where these came from. It didn't have any mirrors on it when I picked this up. So I found some in my garage. They were probably off some Triumph or something, but they seem to fit. But yeah, it's a very conventional sort of feel. It actually feels very similar to the water-cooled T100 that I rode of Jamie's. It's got that similar bar width on there. So come on, let's go and have a ride, and we'll have a chat about the riding experience, which is interesting to say the least, but very entertaining. Come on. Okay, let's go for a ride. Right, so what does she actually like to ride? Well, actually really pleasant, and it's as I said in the sort of walk around, it has very much a sort of classic Triumph feel, sort of earlier than the sort of you know, real mainstream Bonnevilles, you know, like the 865s and that. It's sort of just prior to that. So it's a really interesting bike. Now I've got this interesting problem, mate, where we've got the later K&N filters on, and we've got that Predator exhaust, so it does tend to cough and splutter and splurt until you've got got her right up to temperature, and then she seems to sort of settle down. And I think that's mainly to do with the jetting, really. I've got to sort the jetting out on this bike because it's just not quite right. The amount of air that she's sucking in just doesn't it can't be matched by the fuel that the jets are trying to sort of push into the engine. But it's actually lovely to ride. It's very neutral handling. There's nothing complicated about it at all, and it feels very light on the ride. And that strange sort of push-body Beverly drive engine, whatever you want to call it, it's very smooth. It's got a sound all of its own, like a weird sort of whisper, where you get this. It's almost like what do they call it, like a supercharger turbo. He said it's really strange, but it's nice. It's quite an interesting sound all of its own. And I suppose at the end of the day, that engine's quite unique, isn't it? It's not in anything else. It's just on this bike by itself. In terms of the suspension and stuff, you know, okay, I mean, this suspension's, I mean, how old is this bike? It's 2004, so it's, you know, it's 20 years old, 21 years old. The suspension feels like it's 21 years old. I was having a better look at the tyres today, and I thought the tyres are actually okay. They are getting quite cracked, and it is time for a change. So we're looking to put some sort of scrambler type tyres on this. Because it's going to be a sort of winter project and a bit of fun. I'm not looking forward to the extra time it's going to take to warm this thing up in the winter. But once you get it, once it's happy at the right temperature, it's actually really nice. It just plugs along nicely. And when you want to open it up, there's that little bit of slight hesitation when he thinks, what do you want to do? What are you trying to do to me? And you pull the throttle right back, and away you go. You know, both jets are pushing as much fuel through as possible, and it just works, and it has a great sound. That exhaust is great. I think it probably would work more in tune with how it should do with the original exhaust on it. It's a shame we don't have the original exhaust. But I will persevere with these Predators because they are stainless steel. They're not going to go rusty, and they do sound good. The other thing, obviously, we've got the kickstart on here, and I like using the kickstart. It's quite a low compression engine. Because it's air cooled, so you know they're not difficult to kick. When you got water cooled bikes, which run at higher compression because you can have better, you know, more power, they can be a bugger to kick. But this is actually really easy to kickstart. And you've got to remember, don't pull the clutch in. I do that on my Triumph. I always pull the clutch in. I think, oh, okay, because that takes the drive away from the sprockets. So you can't. You've got to make sure you leave the clutch out. Otherwise, you sort of hit your leg on the peg. See, now we've got to sort of an operating temperature. She's all right. She's okay. You know, she's happy, and you do get that little bit of feedback from the exhaust. That pop, 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 pop. It's quite nice, really nice. So, do I think this was a good bike to buy? Well, I think it's an interesting bike. It's not something you're ever going to lose on, is it? I wouldn't tell you what I paid for it. It wasn't a lot. And it needs work to put it up to what I want, and I want to get the carburetors tuned, and I want it to be smooth and all the rest of it, which at certain revs is absolutely lovely. And hopefully, you know, you can hear the engine as I'm plodding along here. I'm trying not to go into too fast there because of the wind on their microphone, but once you got it up to temp, you know, it's just really nice. It's just something about it. I'm going to get the colours and the tank and the stuff how I want it, just that. But in terms of power, the bike is actually is you know, it's up there. I know I spoke to Dave about this, and they raced one of these back in the day with the T100, and it was as quick as the T100 without any shadow of doubt. He said, and actually it's like it started to pull away from the T100 because you got just under 50 horsepower, I think, out of this engine, which is pretty nice for an air-cooled engine like this for a 650. So you can't really complain at that. So what do I think about the bike overall then? Well, I think it's actually a really cool bike. I think once I've got it really sort of sorted, you know, and you know, carburetors and all the rest of it sussed, I'm going to order a full kit for these with new jets and all the rest of it, just to get that right. And I wish I knew sort of like a Kawasaki specialist that really looked after it. But if anybody knows anybody in the comments, then that would be very nice. But I think it's a bike that deserves to be, you know, fettled and worked on, because you know eventually the carburetor is just going to do my head in. The spluttering and the, you know, it's okay once you open it up, but I don't want to keep riding like that. I want to ride it with a little bit of peace. Because it's already sort of spluttering again. You can sort of feel that the carburetors are running out of fuel. Do you know what I mean? You go, every carburetors are running out of petrol. Because I suppose at the end of the day, this bike wasn't supposed to rerun like this. And if you're going to change things like that, then you do need to, you know, give them a means of breathing a little bit better. Or allowing to suck some more fuel through. Alright, I suppose we better get back to the church and sign off. I'll just go under this bridge though, because it's always nice just to rev your bike under a bridge, isn't it? You know what I'm like. Cool. Right, back to it, everybody. So what are my plans with this bike then? You know, it doesn't owe me a lot at the end of the day. And I think you can get over precious with certain bikes, you know, that or you know, keep it a standard, all the rest of it. You know me, I'm not a standard guy. So so my diary is to sort of slightly scramblerize it. You know, just nice rough and ready, just a blast out, something different to ride, you know what I'm like. So the plan is I want to do away with this mudguard, or certainly up to about there with the mudguard, just to clean the line up a little bit really. I'm sort of moderately stuck with these exhausts, these Predator exhausts. They sound great, but I don't think they're the best in terms of performance at the moment. I've got that slight issue. I think is to ride with these exhausts and those air filters on there, it's going to need a carb sort out really to sort of tune and rejet, I think. But that's sort of by the by. I'd like to have some Highline exhausts in there, but the cost of these ones are so expensive. I mean, I could just sell these exhausts, I suppose, but they do sound really, really good. Anyway, that's by the by. So I want the mudguard up here, okay, with a towel tied. I want to get rid of all of this and just tidy the line of that up a little bit. I've ordered a seat cover. Now the seat cover for these, they're quite hard to find, but they're quite expensive. But I found a W650, it's the same seat apparently, fingers crossed, which has got better ribbing on it. And this one, you tend to sort of fall off this one a little bit. It's not the greatest seat in the world. So going to recover the seat. Front mudguard probably as well. That's probably going to come off. These are in good nick, these parts. So I may keep hold of them and just buy some gash ones that, you know, I'm not too worried about. Maybe take it off completely or just shorten it. I'll put a grill on the light, I think. And then I've got to think about the colours. So I'm going to take, certainly these are coming off. I don't want these on here. They're just, you know, too much. It's too much. It's just too much. And the badge, I don't particularly like the badge. It's just over the top really for me. I want to clean the line of the bike up a little bit. I have seen some badges that they replicate the BSA sort of Gold Star badges, but they got W650 in them. But because this has got a lovely curve on it, I don't think they would fit. So I might see if I can get a transfer or something put on there. to my sort of design, if you like. And then do I polish up the casings? Possibly, possibly. Not sure yet, but they do need a bit of a clean because they are a bit atrocious. But I do plan to ride this throughout the year. And maybe have a look at those Predator exhausts, see if they need fitting properly. I think that's half of it. And then get the carburetors sorted out and stuff like that. I like the fact that I can kickstart it. I like that. It's got a nice feel on it. It takes ages, as I said on the ride around, it takes ages to warm up. So you really have to let it warm up before you start going at it, because it will splutter and blah, 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 yeah. So I have to get used to back to used to going for chokes again on bikes. But apart from that, I'm not going to go too mad with it. I would like wide American bars on it, possibly. But these are pretty comfortable and I quite like these bars. So that's the plan, you know, do those things just to tidy it up a little bit, just give it a bit of a sleeker line, and then ride it and just enjoy it. As I say, it doesn't owe me an awful lot of money. So if in the end I decide to get rid of it, then, you know, I'll probably get my money back. But yeah, interesting. What do you think? Do you like the W650? Is it not a good bike? It's just different, isn't it? It's just different. It really is different. Right, hope you enjoyed that. I can hear the lawnmower starting and the sun's coming out. Right, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everybody. I'm going to go off and do a bit more riding, warm it back up again and do some more riding. All right, see you soon. Ride safe, everybody, please.